So
Alright, we are officially live on YouTube.
gotta make sure the dogs aren't roaming around the yard, you know?
Wow.
This is the first time your welcome video has auto-played on my YouTube for you when trying to get here.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's good considering, didn't YouTube miss out on like the first minute before, or was that Twitch?
Depends on who I... Turns on Twitch.
Pick one! They get to suffer this week.
Alright. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. I'm Evan Irwin and we get started as we do each and every week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hi.
Ruben Bressler.
Namaste. I thought we were namaste.
Weren't we namasteing? Did we stop? We nama went.
You noted at the last minute.
Oh my gosh. Let me get in my went and stay joke. I'm okay with that. All right, so it's been actually kind of a crazy week. I think we started with like, man, are we going to have topics? And then all of a sudden we have like actual infinite topics.
Right.
It's all happening. It begins with GP Vegas. We're all going to be there. Oh my God, we're all going to be there.
Oh
big update from last week. Evan is going to avoid being a hikikomori. He's going to leave his house for once in his life.
Right, I get to see the sun thing I've heard about. It's weird. The
three of us will be in a room together for the first time since possibly ever, but certainly since starting the show.
Yeah.
Let's see. Since
were
we all at GP Charlotte?
We were all in Richmond. I was in Charlotte.
Richmond.
Richmond was
Richmond.
Richmond. We were all in Richmond. 2012.
Long before any of us were even born.
Whatever.
Yeah.
When the rocks were nice and soft. The point is, GP Vegas is happening. GP Vegas is going to be like kind of an insane summit of like everyone in Magic. At this point, the Manosaurus is going, the Professor's going, we're going. Like, it just came. Sometimes it comes right out because you can't believe how unbelievably sweet this is going to be. I'll edit it later.
When you said you were coming, though, I immediately thought of Marlon Brando and the Island of Dr. Moreau with like the white sheet and the glasses and the paint because you're bald and really white. Just
wow.
It is. However, you make a joke, but you certainly should bring sunscreen.
Absolutely.
The sun.
Redheads too, if you're watching.
Fair enough. So either way, so we have some exciting news for the podcast itself.
Yes.
The podcast beginning next week will be officially sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. Yes, where you can find cool stuff in stock.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, is your current place of employment.
Just so happens to be my employer. It's something that I've been kind of hesitant to do. I think we've all kind of been a little bit hesitant to do. We don't want to alienate our patrons who are amazing and have supported us all this time. We want to make sure that we can add value to those patrons who have been with us a good long time, and I wanted to make sure that was baked in. We're going to be able to give away things, which we're going to start with next week, and that's going to be super sweet. I can't wait to get that stuff started.
Giving stuff away next week? That's amazing.
Yes, and every single week thereafter, we're going to start giving away stuff like cray. I can't wait because I want to be able to do that stuff. I also want to be able to use the powers of a business that ships out lots of things to be able to ship out lots of things to people who support us. Because it's been for you very patrons, difficult.
This is going to be very good for the patrons specifically because they get more of the stuff,
I wanted to make sure that basically all of the benefits that we're getting from this type of sponsorship and relationship is that we get to help the people who have helped us this entire time, who will continue to do so, or those who will help us in the future. If you feel like helping us out, patreon.com/magicmics.
I think it was also important that we chose a store that we like, because it's very easy to, when you get into the podcast game, you get in the video game, you hear like the audibles or you hear like the whatever, but you know damn well that they don't use Audible. And like, I think it was really important for us to not just get a sponsorship because they were willing to sponsor us. We wanted a service that we really and truly use. And, when I go to GP's, Cool Stuff is the first table I go to. And if they don't have anything, I will settle for the other vendors. But we all can say that we enjoy Cool Stuff. And that was really important too. We wanted to have faith in who we were working with.
Absolutely. So I mean,
I don't play Magic, so I can't.
He's just.
Are you a fake geek boy, Ruben?
Oh.
A what?
Well, I can say, look, I can say 100%.
A little bit.
I have had nothing but an amazing experience while at Cool Stuff. My job is fantastic. People I work for are amazing, and they were 100% on board with what we want to do. No problems at all. Really excited about it. Next week we'll get that started officially, and at this point I've known other channels who've been sponsored in this way, and it didn't alienate the people who helped them, and I don't want to alienate the people who have helped us, because that's been a thing. Cool. All right, so Magic the Gathering news. Holy crap! Wizards decided to release a big, huge article called Modern Masters 2017 edition and Amonkhet packaging. And in it was just a whole bunch of revelations and things to talk about. And we'll kind of take it sort of one chunk at a time, if you will. Now we get started with the Modern Masters packaging, which has on it 3 cards on the individual booster box, or the individual booster packs, and 1 image on the box itself. The packs themselves have Griselbrand, Domri Rade, and Stoic Angel.
One of these things is not like the others.
Like Stoic Angel, like that's the point where you go like, okay guys, $5 on who can tell me what Stoic Angel does right now, like right this second. It's just.
I mean, I know what it does because I'm a huge nerd, but
yeah,
it's that's a weird one.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's a band
it's
angel.
Also.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the Bant Angel, and it also clues in that perhaps we're going to get 1 mythic in each shard, which I think is interesting. Because there's no way that you actually just only put in Stoic Angel, right? Like, they were just like, well, we need a 3/4 flyer for 4 in Bant. That's what we need for this set. No, there's no way. So this is like letting us shoehorn in, I guess, Sphinx of the Steel Wind, maybe? Like, I don't know what this card is doing. But I mean, the art's great. Obviously, it was in one of the write-ups that I made for Vintage Artist Constructed, because it's a pretty solid card, but it's just not,
It's a beautiful.
It's not a card you'd expect on the flagship, not really promotional, but non-standard legal set of the year for Magic, which is weird.
Aaron,
it's just strange.
Big fan of Griselbrand, so I'm completely here for that. I'm a fan of Reanimator strategies. I've tried Return to Griselbrand a time or two. I was very distracted by the young man on the box. Am I the only one that gets a Heath Ledger vibe from whoever this guy is with the lightning bolt? And am I the only one who sees that?
Yeah, guy on the box, isn't this the bad guy from Spider-Man 3? Like, I don't know exactly. Or is this like old shaven head Jace? Right? Like, I don't know what's happening with this guy.
All I'm saying is, I'm happy to take odds on this being Snapcaster. I think this is 1,000%
I was just gonna say,
Snapcaster.
It's a reprint we could use.
Yeah, it was first. It was a fate first befallen of Chris Bakula, and then John Finkel, and then Bob Marr, and now Tiago Chan gets his invitational card art replaced by some other person.
Yep.
You gotta just taking all of our jobs as being the.
Well, it had been replaced by the RPTQ promo.
Oh, that's true. I forgot that
really
Lucio Overwatch was on the RPTQ.
No, dude, it was the guy. I can't feel my face when I'm with you. The Weeknd.
Oh, the Weeknd.
Put the Weeknd on there.
He's a talented dude.
He really turns out he can even
put out hit
flashback spells
singles
from the
and
graveyard.
flashback spells.
That's
so
how
this.
Good he is.
I don't know what this is like, but this is older looking, right? Now, Snapcaster Mage 1 and 2 look like they were in their late 20s, mid 30s. This guy looks like he's 50, right? So
I wouldn't say 50.
I don't think it really matters per se.
I'm just asking.
No. For me, the key thing is that the Snapcaster had that like Mega Man gun thing, right?
Yes.
And this guy has something that is making like a spark so big you can't see what's behind it, which to me would be the gun or whatever, the hand thing. But and again, and because Modern Masters, it needs a flagship mythic. It had Dark Confidant. Originally it essentially had Tarmogoyf amongst other various sundries. And here I think we're going to have Snapcaster. Now that means, or may not mean, but I think it means basically we're not going to get Liliana. If Liliana was in here, but Domri Rade's on the packs. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's weird. And someone was like, well, Liliana was on the Innistrad packs, and I'm like, no one thinks that. I mean, does that really matter at all? Period.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, we've talked about in the past though that we like it when they bookend the hype. We like it when they come out with something big and splashy at the beginning and then big and splashy at the end.
Right.
Liliana being a big and splashy reveal at the end still lines up here. If they're like, first day we got Snapcaster Mage, check it out, everybody. super neat. Everybody's on the Snapcaster Mage bandwagon for a while. Liliana comes out at the end of spoiler season, right? Is like the third to last thing spoiled. That keeps the hype up. If you had both Snapcaster and Liliana on the packaging, you might be front-loading your hype, like I forget which set we were talking about, where they front-loaded all the hype.
Eternal Masters, blew it the first day.
Yeah, they flew out every good card, and then the rest of spoiler season was like, this isn't exciting, this isn't as exciting, this isn't as exciting, we've built up a tolerance, right? Sure. And so maybe they're trying to do something along those lines. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here. And also trying to keep hope alive that Liliana, 3-drop Liliana is still going to be in the set. Because I think that it's a pretty massive oversight if it's not.
Also, you know what else is a massive oversight?
What's that?
That you didn't even bring up the fact that we have a spoiler.
Oh, right.
And that we get to reveal it on March 1st. Hello.
That's right. 1 week from today, we'll have our exclusive spoiler from Modern Masters.
And I feel personally attacked by this card. That's all I'm going to say.
Aaron feels personally attacked by the card.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the cards they give us don't just fall from the sky. I'm sure they sit around, they debate, and they talk about it, and they're just like, we got this one.
I mean, we got one that was a direct troll at Evan, right?
Yeah.
Like very recently.
That was the spider.
Yeah.
And then now they're kind of trolling me. So what would be your troll card? What would it take to troll you, Ruben? Yeah.
I don't put out as much content as you guys, so I'm like harder of a target to hit. I don't know, something that's like, I don't know, if they ever reprinted Information Dealer, that would be a pretty efficient troll if they gave that to us.
Okay.
Or something like that. Or Counterbalance, because of the tagline. But yeah, it'd be that'd be pretty funny.
Awesome. So we'll have a spoiler. That will be super sweet. I don't think there is any way on this planet that Snapcaster Mage is rare in this set. If he's in it, it's mythic. I promise. But look, I agree with you. I think the best scenario would be something like, Snapcaster, maybe something crazy like Fetchlands or something on the end of it, or something like Liliana on the end of it. And then you have your bookends, and everything in between is cool, but you have your like, oh my god, I can't believe X is in Y. You want to have that one because Modern Masters 2015 was just not juiced like the original. The original Modern Masters was like, holy cow, the value is nuts. They don't have a Grand Prix around this one, which I think was a huge mistake. Even if the set is not great, being able to have a tentpole, sort of a big, coming together of Magic moment was I think one of the sort of the hallmarks of what Modern Masters was. And now it's like, all right, let's dump it, right in here and not have a Grand Prix around it. And we hope you guys like it. And there might be some value in it, but Amonkhet will be here a couple weeks later, so don't worry about it.
Right. Yeah, that's super upsetting. I think that, if they're looking at plans for next year or 2 years down the line, whenever they happen to do another Modern Masters or another Masters event, doing something like this Grand Prix Vegas triple GP weekend and coinciding it with the release of Modern Masters would be cool.
Right.
Like, even if you had a double GP weekend where one of them was the Modern Masters GP for North America, and then also that same weekend, it would be like a Thursday start, Saturday start, or something like that. You had the Modern Masters, and then you had a standard GP or something, and just had those back to back, and then that sort of festival atmosphere would be a really cool way to capitalize on the excitement.
But they did not.
But they didn't.
We're going to keep on moving here, where we actually do get to Amonkhet packaging next, which shows some really cool characters. We do definitely have some hounds, sort of some hound people, if you will. Really cool cat mask on what looks to be one of the gods. Some really interesting, clearly Egyptian fueled type setup and culture. Talks a little bit about the pre-release pack, and they have bundles, of course. But we get to the Amonkhet Planeswalker decks, of which there are two, as there have been from here on out. There's Gideon and there's Liliana. Now, Wizards kind of messed up a little bit, and they accidentally included the text in the pictures of the Brazilian version. And so quickly that was translated, and now we know the names, or at least, the Brazilian-esque names of them both.
You mean Portuguese?
I'm sorry, Portuguese?
Brazilian-esque.
Brazilian-esque.
The Brazilian names. Wow, this set is enormous. They have a Brazilian names.
They have a Brazilian. That's how many they have. Fantastic. Ruben for the save. Thank you very much. Yeah. The point is, the Portuguese, the Portuguese translation was out there. Let's get to it. Liliana, Death's Manipulator, is black, and 5 generic mana. The only ability we know on it is +2, -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. The other is Gideon, Martial Paragon for a white and 4 generic mana. That is a 1-color Planeswalker necessary. That's only happened 3 other times. I know this because I looked it up. I was bored. It has the ability of +2, untap all of your creatures. They get +1/+1 until end of turn. So, okay, I think the most exciting bit from these abilities, were what people gathered, was maybe the set is about -1/-1 counters, because Kaladesh was about +1/+1 counters. And if something like Wither could come back, and that has something to do maybe with mummies or the erosion of sand or whatever, they could make that work. I think that would be super cool. I absolutely love Wither. It could help power down things like Winding Constrictor, which is absolutely insane right now. Like, Winding Constrictor being a bad thing to play is a great thing for Standard.
Yeah.
Anything you guys glean from this stuff?
There are some, creative ways that Wizards has accidentally released information in the past couple of years. This one's fine. We've talked about the Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers before. None of them have made a dent in Standard yet. Even though we've talked about it briefly, I don't anticipate that it will change this time. Even though this is a splashable 5-mana Planeswalker that is an Anthem effect with Gideon here. Moving back to the art of the set, I just love the style. I think all of the packs are super sweet. I'm really excited for the cosplayers in the community who I've already heard are working on the various Pan's Labyrinth, cat mask, snake mask, whatever dealies happening. Everything about this set just looks super neat. And then of course there's also, I don't know if we're ready to move on, but to the basic lands here.
Right. Well, we're getting there. However, up next, I wanted to talk a little bit. No, you're right. The full art lands.
I wanted to add something really quick about the one thing that stood out to me about the packs was, do you remember when they had that whoopsie a while back with the product packaging that got leaked to, was it Walmart or something?
Right.
Yeah.
And it had there were some prospective Amonkhet packs. And then there were packs from the Aztalan, that Mayan possibly themed set. Right. And then there was the other one with the really dumb name. There were 3.
Like Promise of Power or Seeking Power or something.
This packaging matches the whoopsie. And so the whoopsie that they were like, oh, this is just promotional imaginary. It's like, no, girl, this is exactly what you put in that email. And so it's got some people thinking that, we're 1 for 3 so far. And that if this is accurate, maybe that was right. And that Mayan set is coming up. And then after that, the set with the really lame name is coming up. And that was really what I took away from the packs.
Well, that's really cool. I did not go back and take a look at that. I'm actually looking for that right now. It's difficult to find.
Atalantzan.
Atalantzan.
I don't remember. Atalantzan, I think was it was something like that. But yeah, it was the Aztec / Merfolk Atlantis kind of dealy. I'd forgotten about that actually. So this is, once is a coincidence. Twice is a trend.
Coincidence, I don't think so, not so much. And again, at the time, for me, sort of being more ingrained kind of in the hobby industry rather than just Magic, I kind of see some of the industry pull in that being able to send things to a mass market, be able to get that type of survey data, be able to try to appeal to the mass market as much as possible is good for Wizards in a business sense. And this definitely felt like an, oh my God, I can't believe you sent X to Y and they put it in a survey and blah, blah, blah. So either way, super exciting and interesting. However, what is also super exciting and interesting is that Wizards fixed the full art lands problem. I'm so excited. Ruben, go ahead and tell us about it.
Beautiful.
So we got our 5 full art basic lands for the set. And these will also be appearing in packs, 1 out of every 4 booster packs to be exact. In addition to being part of the in-store promotions that we talked about last week. And much like the Eiffel Tower in Paris, apparently there's just a spectacular view of Bolas's horns from everywhere in Amonkhet, which is kind of weird. But I like that it's a theme. I like that, artistically speaking, I like the way that they did this. And the art, honestly, is super sweet. It's beautiful stuff. I'm just a little confused by how the sun revolves around where we are, because the sun is in the upper left of every part of every horns.
Right.
Except for the swamp, because there's no sun in the swamp, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I just thought that was kind of strange.
Aaron,
but I love the art.
Right. The Bolas, the horns action going on here.
I love the art, and what's so funny to me is I thought this was the same artist. It's actually 5 different artists. Like when I look at that,
yeah.
and somehow, they were able to sort of get their styles in sync to where you can't really tell the difference, and I think that's really cool. And these are beautiful. Like even lands, I obviously don't play mountains, but if I were to play mountains, I would probably use these because they're just gorgeous. And
it's gorgeous, but it doesn't have a mountain on it. See, that's the other.
And that's what I like about it.
I see that.
It doesn't have a mountain on it. I think
my other problem with this Plains has a bunch of sailboats. Plains is a plains. The island doesn't really have an island, does it?
But
it
it's
just
got
has a waterfall.
water.
I guess it has a couple islands. The swamp is a swamp. The forest is, I guess it's a forest. But
there is vegetation.
The mountain has no mountain.
The mountain has some obelisks. The forest has like some green stuff growing around a few temples.
Yeah, they got that vertical greenhouses that they're building in Beijing.
Right, and somehow we're sailing boats on a plane, but okay. The point is, I think that Wizards, for me, Wizards fixed the problem. The problem is we had 1993 graphic design telling you what to do in 2017. That's bad. Well, what they're able to do is they're able to take the good idea, which was we just should have full art. We should have had this for a very long time. But whatever. They can still make it special. They don't have to send out full art land packs to stores and GPs so people can use them in their in their seal pools or whatnot, or in their draft decks, because they're worth too much money. Like, it's in the best interest of the shop to get a land pack full of full art lands to just sell them than it is to have them be used and taken away by drafters. So
there were also issues with the fat packs too, if I remember correctly, when Battle for Zendikar card first came out, and that they just couldn't keep up with the supply, and that there were people who genuinely enjoyed buying fat packs that couldn't because all the land vultures wanted them, and they kind of got screwed out of that. So this seems like it's a better alternative in that area as well.
Right. I mean, you found speculators, people who were like, oh, all the lands are full art. That means that this should be, this should really be $60 and not instead of $45 or whatever. And it went crazy because there weren't a lot of it. But you also kind of saw that same thing happen with the Commander of the Mind Seize deck that had, what was it? True Day Nemesis, right?
Yeah.
People couldn't find it. It was worth $1 bajillion. Wizards reprinted a ton of it, and all of a sudden you could get it anywhere you wanted if you just wanted to buy the Commander deck, because now there wasn't the ability to go speculate on it. But for fat packs and the way those things work, there's kind of a one and done, and they can get really scarce really quickly.
From the Vorthos perspective, I'm being told by YouTube chat that one of the kinks of this plane is that because Bolas created it when he was in his big bad evil guy form, something that happens is whoever's on this plane sees a reminder of Bolas on the horizon. So I guess that this is just like looking first-person perspective through the eyes of somebody on this plane, like when you enter the Emerald City and the wizard makes you put on the emerald glasses, or whatever.
Did you see that someone
that's an interesting little tidbit.
Did you see that someone had suggested that the plane is actually inside the gem between his horns, and that's why you're seeing the horns? And Carrie was like, "No, girl."
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I'm glad that one was shot down. That's really weird. I think it is kind of cool that you always see them. It is really interesting to me that the kind of the artificial planes of Magic, the Mirrodins, Sarah's Realm, which later got destroyed, Amonkhet, really cool. This kind of gives a lot more character and depth to Planeswalkers. Yeah. And also, I think kind of sort of shines interesting light on the old Planeswalkers, because the old Planeswalkers were just gods. They could just do anything, anywhere, all the time. And he got kind of taken down a notch.
They needed to be powered down into cards that you could play. Previously, they were as powerful as the players are of Magic the Gathering.
Right.
After the Sundering, or whatever what is it?
The Mending.
The Mending. I used my Vampire the Masquerade terminology there. After the Mending, Planeswalkers became merely demigods, and have the Planeswalker creature type, or the Planeswalker card type. Previously, you couldn't even put Nicol Bolas on a card. except for the 7/7, which they like made him an Elder Dragon, but whatever. You couldn't put Urza on a card. You couldn't put Yawgmoth on a card. It just wasn't a thing that fit within the motif of the storyline. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty cool way that they've solved the issue and continued to tell the overarching story.
Now, speaking of, Nicol Bolas has spiked again on Twitter. Like there's that one Twitter account, I think it's Echo MTG, that posts like the ups and the downs, and yeah, Nicol Bolas has spiked. So.
Oh, the Planeswalker version?
Yeah,
makes sense.
Nice. Well, it's and here, like at the end of this article, we have archenemy Nicol Bolas, which has to be like this weird black sheep of the product line, because it's like Modern Masters. Oh my God, what is this huge mythics? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, Amonkhet's gonna be huge. Oh, Nicol Bolas is here's full art land. Oh my God, it's like here's archenemy.
Hey man, it's not for you. Archenemy was a really cool
Archenemy was cool. I liked Archenemy a lot more than I liked Planeswalker.
Yeah, for the people who played it, Archenemy's great. Archenemy is a lot like dungeon crawling in WoW, Aaron, or dungeon raiding, or whatever it's called, where you like have a team of 3 or 4 trying to play against this big giant evil thing, and instead of it being computer generated, it's card and deck generated, which is pretty cool. Again, you're right. It's definitely getting buried hard in this announcement, but it's still a pretty cool item.
I mean, I think Wizards is trying to make as many products as they possibly can. And I think we saw this at the end of last year when we started to get into this weird mode of like every 2 to 3 weeks, there was this big release. And there was this huge thing, and then there was another spoiler season. There was this huge thing, there was another spoiler season. And how we have this, we have Modern Masters coming out, and then like just literally directly after we have Amonkhet come out, and then directly after that, we have this. And at some point, you're going to have the From the Vault stuff that's going to show up, and then all of a sudden, we're going to start talking about Hour of Devastation. So, these things kind of steamroll, and I think you're starting to see some of that now. However, I am currently scrolling through some of the amazing artwork from Amonkhet for people to take a look at. There are 5 gods, and Chase Stone did an amazing job painting all of them. They're incredible. Nobody knows exactly at this point which one goes to which color, or if they go to multicolors. But
right.
I think most people are thinking that one god to one color. And for me, some of it I think is a little obvious, like the snake is green. But I think there's a few others that may or may not be black or may or may not be red.
Yeah, I'm thinking the bird looks pretty blue.
Right.
Cat looks pretty white. It would be my guess. The crocodile looks black.
Does it?
Yeah, it's my guess. This fox, I guess, is red because it's got the red in the background.
I would think the opposite. I think the one above it is red, and then the other one is black.
The crocodile's red, and the fox / wolf is black.
Well, yeah, because Anubis, if I remember my school level Egyptian lore, Anubis was the guardian of the dead, and so she seems to have that countenance, and you see sort of the black and red swirling, and I think she's black.
Sure.
Aligned.
I can see that.
And what you'll find is, and I think we saw a little bit of this in Theros, you're going to find that she's probably like a Nuban or something. Or
right.
or Anubine, you know what I mean? Like, because Wizards can't copyright Anubis. They can't do it. They have to have creatures or characters that they can copyright. So they're not going to name it what you would expect it. It's just going to be like a little bit off.
Right. So instead of Isis, this will be Isol, the snake god, because that's current events. All right, we can move on.
Nice. I do want to talk about that Liliana art, though. So Wizards recently released the full version of this, because the version we're seeing on this page is she's cropped, and she seems to be holding a grape and having a come at me bro kind of pose. Right. The enlarged picture, mummies. She's got a mummy holding her fruit bowl, a la Tassiger, which has led some people to suspect that she may end up going the Tassiger route and end up on some demon's necklace. But there's mummies in the set, and I was so hyped for this. And I'm like,
other heckin' mummies.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I want to bring it up right now. Yes, this image is actually amazing. First of all, it is one of the best Liliana images I've ever seen. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Just the
amount
of
attitude.
art. Yeah. The fabric.
Yeah.
I know it's a little silly, but the fabric.
No. Yeah.
So there's a couple things about this art in particular that inspired people to start going off on social media. The first of which is bananas for scale is a new thing. with the more bougie of the posing leaders of the various places being Tassiger the Golden Fang and this new Liliana having servants holding platters containing bananas. So they went off on that one a little bit. And then the other one that somebody pointed out was they didn't know where the foot came from. We have another Olivia Valderon problem.
Yeah.
People have traced it to the point if you can figure it out at least. I mean, I think it's an optical illusion.
She has a super flowy dress. I forgive this one. This one's
like Olivia Valderon. I think was just a straight mistake.
There's no floating knee.
Right. This is just like
this art is gorgeous.
Hey, God makes no mistakes. She was born that way.
Wow.
That up.
Apologies.
I saw a complaint from Vorthos Mike actually, and he was talking, not necessarily a complaint, but he mentioned that Liliana seems to be getting whiter and whiter.
Yeah.
And I don't mean whiter in like a death way. We mean like in a Caucasian way, where like when Liliana first started, she was very clearly somebody of Middle Eastern descent, and he was like, huh. He's like, she's just a white girl now. Like, okay. Well,
to be fair, she's been on pretty cloudy plains for a while. So she's lost that, general Middle Eastern coloring. So perhaps by the hour of devastation, she will have gotten her baseline tan back.
Wow.
That's just
my
look.
Way for the tan explanation.
For a base, it was a long bus ride for that tan.
Liliana got her group back.
That's right. There was a pea stop in the middle of that one. All right, so Wizards or specifically Hasbro has an investor call where they explain sort of how their year has went throughout 2016 and what happened with Magic amongst all their other brands, Transformers, My Little Pony, so on and so forth. And there's always some really cool information that you can kind of get out of this. A lot of it is just kind of very vague, something like 114 million packs were sold or something. And it's like, what does that mean?
Know what that means. Yeah.
Is that
That's
just English? Is that worldwide? Is that just what they print in America? I mean, like you can kind of slice and dice these numbers however you want. However, they did post an actual factual screenshot of Magic Digital Next. And I'm bringing it up on here on the screen right now. And there's a few things that I think we can glean from this, which is you clearly see that this is basically, I think, Duels 2.0, where the camera is tilted a little bit more in what I would describe as the Hearthstone direction. The characters against each other are very clearly defined. The backs of the cards are really super interesting. The mana cost of the cards themselves are now floating above the cards instead of being actually on the cards themselves, which is interesting. And ultimately, there were some other things that they said about Magic Digital Next that were incredibly enlightening, if not certainly interesting. The first was that, and I think this was Chris Cox talking. You could watch the presentation, you could listen to it, but you couldn't see who was saying anything. But what they explained was that this is Magic with, quote, no compromises. I don't know exactly what that's supposed to mean because, you could argue that Magic with no compromises in a duels world is fine because they have a very small set of cards and they have literally gotten rid of cards out of duels because they were headaches to program for. Like, that's weird, but that's happened. And so, yeah, if it's Magic with no compromises, but it's only like standard, then But if it's every card in Magic, it's 16,000 cards in every interaction they're in, and we'll get to problems with that here later. But let's just say Magic with no compromises is a weird, loaded phrase. Next, again, I think this was Chris Cox talking, in which they were explaining the trailer that they showed to the investors. Now, what happened during the call was they talked about Magic Digital Next. They built a new Magic studio. They've hired a whole bunch of people who know what they're doing. This is going to be great. And they said, check out the trailer. And then it goes to like trailer playing. Wait for 30, 45 seconds. They come back, and whoever is speaking says something to the effect of, the people who I've shown this to react to it the same way they saw Halo for the first time. And I'm like, bruh. Look, man, I have my conductor hat on the hype train, okay? I got my stripes. I got my pension. But let me tell you, you are driving that thing a little hard.
Puncher to make sure you got your tickets.
You have to pull back, bruh. You got to pull back on that chain a little bit, because you're starting to get yourself to a point where expectations are going to be through the roof. E3 now lists Magic the Gathering as being a presenter there. That's also a big deal. Also note, weekend of GP Vegas is E3.
Yeah.
So I fully expect there to be a huge announcement at E3, like a huge trailer reveal / maybe even a playable demo. And I also expect that to be at Vegas. And if they don't have that at Vegas, I will be very disappointed. At least something. You know what I mean? Like maybe at E3 you could play it, but at GP Vegas they're just running the demo reel or whatever. Right, you know, that type of compromise. But something to make GP Vegas people who show up for 3 GPs to feel special about it.
You got to pump the brakes on the hype with the... I mean, I remember the first time watching my buddy play through Halo, and the first time the Flood showed up, and I had nightmare. I just immediately just couldn't move for 15 minutes after that first cutscene. I was like, what the hell just happened? If that's the description that he's trying to get out of Magic Digital Next, you're going to have to 3x, 4x, 5x the hype from Hearthstone. Right? Hearthstone was a big deal, but people were not, flipping out the way they did at, when the initial, when the first teaser trailer from the first most recent Star Wars came out. That kind of hype. Right. He is really... Boy, that is a hype train that is just going down the rails. Wait, he needs to pump the air brakes on that one. Also, by the way, in case you were wondering, one of the duties of the train conductor is to serve tea, which you do quite well. So I thought you'd like to know that.
Nice. It is my honor and my privilege.
Mostly on British trains, but...
Mostly. But, and one of the things that I do recall being noted was that they expect to have revenue from this by the end of the year. And I'm like...
that is looking ludicrous.
That seems super ambitious, y'all. That's crazy. Aaron, are you ready for Magic Digital Next?
I'm ready for it. You have to wonder how much. You have to wonder, when the bar is so low that the hype seems bigger. You know what I mean? I can't help but wonder how the hype is in relation to what we currently have to work with. And so I think that might be, people are reacting similar to Halo. Well, yeah, when you've had to look at this client for how long, and then you show them something like that, of course they're going to be through the roof, And so that was the first thing I thought of was...
all right, so let me give you an analogy, okay? So we're out in the fields, okay? It's dusty. It's dirty. It's nasty. We're out there building our little go karts, right? We're tinkering away and we're making them run as fast as we can. And it kind of hardly works. And sometimes wheels fly off. But you know what? We're having a good time. Next door, they're building a NASCAR stadium, okay? And they're explaining that you are going to drive nothing but NASCARs. It's going to be absolutely insane. ESPN's going to make a whole new channel for it. You're not going to understand how insane your life is about to become. And we're just sitting there in our go-karts just man, it sure would be nice to be on a NASCAR track. That's where we're at right now. And it's a little stuff.
And personally, I'd rather... I mean, in both the literal sense of your metaphor and the metaphorical sense of your metaphor, I would rather be in the go-karts, personally. But that's just me. I understand the mass appeal of NASCAR for other people. Mama, I want to go fast. But personally, I like the go-karts. That's just how I feel about it.
Mama, I want to go fast.
Where are we?
I'm just pulling out. I just got so many references. It's like...
I mean, look. Well, speaking of go-karts and wheels flying off go-karts, so Wizards of the Coast had a great idea. This is the quintessential amazing idea and awkward follow-through. They were going to run a gauntlet of sort of what was this? The Tempest Mirage constructed standard with all the cool decks and decks you haven't seen in years and stuff with buyback and natural order, and they're broken. They're broken. 3 of the 10 decks they featured are broken.
And by broken, we don't mean too good for the format.
Right.
What we mean is
they don't
non-functional. Yeah.
I mean, and this is one of those things. It's I understand from a concept, it sounded really sweet. They can put the decks together. There's the gauntlet. Everyone's excited about it. You just build those things. But maybe next time play just all 10 decks and say, are all these interactions working? Because some of them are very fundamental, like Sapphire Medallion reducing the cost of buyback. That was a huge part of that deck working. Natural Order working was a huge part of Natural Order working, as it turns out.
The fact that Natural Order is broken is ludicrous, considering the fact that it's in the cube.
And it happens so fast too. It's within hours. And I mean, just Twitter, Kenji Yashiro, a big name. And I think it's more embarrassing when like a big name finds it. Like when somebody who's helped support your brand and community Super League and streams regularly. I think it's more mortifying when that happens. And for him to be on stream and he's one of the first to was anxiously awaiting to do this, and people are in his stream the hype. Oh my God, this is so cool. Oh,
it's just, you remember when Ponder messed up for LSV?
Yeah.
And it was just it just tore your heart out because he was like, I don't want to play this anymore. I got to go. And
you're
just no, LSV. We're sorry. We didn't know. Nobody knew how busted it was. It just tears your heart out when it's messed up like that.
We were supposed to stream it tomorrow. The girls and I were invited to a streamer showdown.
Yeah.
So
and we had.
So you're invited. What are you doing now?
So they have since they've taken down the Flashback Gauntlet. They've replaced it with Triple Khans Flashback Draft. And then we received an email saying that, this is what we will be streaming tomorrow. So we're still going through with it, but it's become a Triple Khans Flashback. And somebody on Twitter had equated this to reparations. Like, sorry, we burned down your village. Here's some gold.
Right.
And here's the fetch land set. We're sorry.
Yeah. It's just not the same.
Well, we're 41 minutes in, so we might as well go to our next segment. Gather the Townsfolk. Gather the Townsfolk is...
Speaking of burning down your village.
I know, right?
Right.
So, Ruben, or Aaron, if you'd like to, feel free to take this one. Can somebody tell me about this ridiculous Death Shadow deck and how it works? Because I look at it and I'm like, all right, your Mishra's Baubles, okay. I'm like, it seems fine, but apparently it's completely busted in terms of where it is in the meta and the decks it attacks, and no one had any idea what they were doing, apparently, because everyone who played it made top 8.
Yeah.
So Death Shadow... Yeah, if you want to, that's fine.
Aaron, go ahead. Please.
Okay.
You got it.
So Death Shadow had been a thing before the most recent ban. It was more of like an infectless deck, though, for lack of a better term. It relied on Temur Battle Rage, Become Immense, Gitaxian Probe, kind of filling your graveyard as fast as you can, hurting yourself as quickly as you can. To have a really big Death Shadow with some pumps. Mutagenic Growth was in the deck, and it was very scary even in that form. Gitaxian Probe ban happens. People assume that the deck is going to go away. This version did see play before the ban, though, but it just wasn't the optimal version at the time. I believe the optimal version had to Become Immenses and things like that. Josh Shutter-Layton, Sam Black, and Jerry Thompson putz around with this deck, and they decide that it's everything. And the three of them, and I think one other person in their team, I could be wrong on that, showed up to the GP, and then just all three made top 8. No big, like you do. And the deck relies really heavily on Delirium now, with things like Mishra's Bauble, Traverse the Ulvenwald to find your Death Shadow. It runs the full suite of discard spells, a la Jund. So it runs 4 copies of Inquisition, 4 copies of Thoughtseize. It's a lot grindier than Death Shadow used to be, and that I think a lot of people were prepared for. It also runs cards like Liliana, The Last Hope, and the Renegade Rallier from Either Revolt to bring back a lot of your threats. You can also bring back your Street Race with Liliana, The Last Hope, and then cycle them to lose even more life. So there's so many intricate interactions. There's so many things you can do. It's incredibly resilient. It's incredibly pesky. Nobody really knew how to attack it. It all happened so fast. Like watching the games, Delirium on turn 2, 4/4, 7/7 Death Shadows. It also runs Tarmogoyfs to also lean on the Delirium graveyard theme. It's just disgusting, and nobody at this GP was prepared for it.
And 3 Tarfire.
Bless their heart.
Yes, over Lightning Bolt. Instead of, we chose to play Tarfire over Lightning Bolt. If you had told me 6 months ago, that would be a thing. Amazing.
Girl.
It's a goblin instance.
I know.
Yeah, so this is Jund Death Shadow as opposed to the combo Death Shadow, which suffered greatly with the loss of Gitaxian Probe, making your Become Immenses like almost 2 mana more expensive a lot of the time. And so this is a much more grindy. You see the 4 Traverse the Ulvenwalds, which is a ludicrous number to have in your aggro deck. This deck just, I think that it was sort of wasn't discovered by, but sort of plucked from MTGO League obscurity, let's say, by Sam Black, who saw it being played by a user on MTGO called Kaltash77. And Sam Black plucked it from obscurity. And so I assume also that in addition to Jerry and Raptor and Sam, probably Matt Severa played it, and probably Justin, last name that is escaping me, Cohen, Rookie of the Year. Probably those 5 played it, I would guess. But yeah, when Sam Black and Jerry and Raptor are all on the same deck, boy howdy, let me tell you. And this deck is a delight to watch and play. It's a very Sam Black style deck of just solve the puzzle instead of trying to play Magic, in which some games you are inevitably going to win and some games you're inevitably going to lose. This one is much more of there is always a solution through this maze. You just have to figure out what that solution is, which I like when Sam Black plays decks, and I thought was very clever. And this is one of the most powerful decks in terms of one tournament I've ever seen. And there was some discussion of, is this the most dominant 1 GP performance from one deck? And obviously that's not the case. There was a tournament in Yokohama in 2012 in which 4 players made the top 8 with a grand total of 4 buys between them. The breakout weekend for Hoof, there it is, with Martin Juza and Brad Nelson, when one of those players won and the other player, I believe, made top 16, I'm going to say, was another example of a super potent win percentage, but certainly in the top 10, and obviously Memory Jar just crushing the first GP requiring an emergency ban. But this is certainly in the top 10 of most dominant GP performances ever from one deck. It's a little surprising, considering that, Gitaxian Probe was in the most recent ban. But then again, after the banning of Deathray Shaman and Bloodbraid Elf, Jund made the next Modern top 8. So Modern seems to be able to handle bannings like that a little bit better. But in any case, this deck is super sweet and is the coolest deck of the weekend so far, and certainly no other deck deserves any mention whatsoever.
There were also 2 copies of Dredge at top 8 in Brisbane.
Oh,
thanks to
Zen
Takahashi and Li Shitian. So I do have to say, though, I do have to warn people, if you are going to SCG Indy this weekend, don't play a graveyard deck, because between Dredge doing well and Death Shadow leaning so hard on Tarmogoyfs and Delirium, you're going to have a hell of a time. So don't bring a graveyard strategy to Indy. Whatever you do, it's going to be rough. I'm telling you.
All right.
I would play Burn right now, honestly. And this is not just because I'm a red maid.
Oh, I agree.
So on the mothership, there's been
by the way, apparently...
Oh, we're losing Ruben big time.
You're good.
All right, Ruben, you've been cutting out a little bit, sort of all evening, bit to bit. However, on the mothership, there has been a series that they've started called What I Love About Magic, and there's What I Love About Magic. I think it's cosplay was today, and on yesterday was Megan Wolf wrote about What I Love About Magic, the personal growth, and it kind of has some different stories about how magic has impacted people's lives, and is, I think, a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit, about what we love about Magic, about the personal growth that we've had through Magic, and what all that stuff means. I mean, for me, because I'm an old man, and I started playing Magic in the late 90s, for me, that was a thing that I was able to latch onto as, a bullied kid who had self-confidence issues, who wasn't very good at a lot of things, but I was good at Magic. I could make friends at Magic. I began to travel all around the country, playing in tournaments and stuff, and that later led me to, making content and being more creative, and then connecting to a community and being sort of kind of how we got here today. The long and short of it, sort of the Cliff Notes version, but certainly there are so many ways to look at life thanks to Magic in particular, and I think the easiest one to kind of explain is the EV, and where Magic players can get totally obsessed with EV, expected value, and they can say, everything I have to do in life has to be the most efficient, valuable thing that I could possibly be doing. And I think, both in Magic and in life, you have to realize that you can't always max EV. Sometimes you have to throw away your best creature in order to win that game, it's not about having the best value on the table or not about getting the best value out of life. It's about getting the results that you're wanting based on the scenario that you're given. So, Aaron, can you tell me a little bit sort of about how do you feel your personal growth has been impacted by the game and what you think about it?
For me personally, I feel like playing Magic in the Magic community really taught me how to look past myself. I'm an only child. I've been single for a really long time. My life had always been just about me, what I want, what I need, what I like 24/7. I wasn't able to see past myself. I had a really good life. Privilege as the kids call it. I had a good office job, health insurance. As a trans woman, I blend as cisgender very well. I didn't really understand what was going on around me. I had a great local game store. It didn't occur to me that other people didn't have the same experiences, that there are some people who maybe have bad times at their game stores, who maybe have difficulty. I had a lot of really dim views when it came to other trans women. Obviously there's been a lot of talk about the bathroom situation, and I would just look at that and I'd say, well, of course they should be kept out of the bathrooms. What's wrong with you? And I just didn't know. I didn't understand anything past my own experience. I didn't know how to be friends with other women, quite frankly. I viewed every woman as competition, and I just didn't get it. I didn't see anything past myself. And from playing Magic and from meeting people, I got to meet other trans women, and I got to see what their experiences were like and how different our journeys were, and how how just dim I was in that whole field, and meeting other women and learning how to be friends with women and just learning how to be a better friend, and just really looking past myself, because for so long I just tunneled. I just didn't see anything other than my job, my downloads. Everybody was competition. I would never, if this had been 5 years ago, I wouldn't be friends with Emma. I'd be competing with Emma, but I've learned to bring people up and take Emma up with me, take Gideon with me, promote other women. I just knew nothing about that. And so I just learned to see something other than, my life, my downloads, my money, my whatever. I just kind of moved past that. So, yeah.
Rudes?
I mean, I guess the quote at the end of the article sums it all up from Mirabeau Lang. I'm not sure how to describe it, but without this community, I don't know who I'd be. I don't know I don't know what I would be like if I hadn't found Matt. I honestly have no idea. I have no frame of reference because I started when I was 12, and it's been a major part of my life for a lot of that intervening 18 years. There have been months, years where I spent 30 hours a week playing Magic. There are periods of time where I was playing Magic 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And then, there were other periods of my life where I was playing less, but making more content and doing things like Magic Mics or the Newsening, which were unique things within the Magic community. And I feel like I have a pretty unique spot within the Magic community now where where I'm like, where people value my opinion despite how I don't play it very much. But yeah, I mean, Magic is such a weird, awesome conglomeration of misfit toys that have managed to find each other through this game. And the game itself is such a good conduit for discussion and understanding and getting to know people better. I know my Magic friends better because of the way that they play, because of the hours that we spent having theory discussions, listening to podcasts on roads to GPs, meeting each other in airports, and having 4 a.m. Hotel conversations with people that you met earlier that day at the tournament site. I don't think I would be as smart as I am had I not started playing Magic. I don't think I would be as worldly. I don't think my views of the world would be as valid. I also don't think that I would be able to value the other side of people's opinions nearly as readily. I think that, when somebody says this card is bad and you say, well, I think this card is good, and then you are able to tangibly work that out and see why both of you think that way, that's not only made me better at poker, which is like one step away, but made me better at having discussions with strangers and dealing with people in public. Believe it or not, I used to be painfully shy. I am an introvert. I'm an introvert, and I put on a brave face. Don't get it twisted. But I was like, I went to like not exactly therapy, but like a step below therapy when I was in middle school for not being able to function in public with other people.
Wow.
Like I was that bad. And Magic, being able to have this group of other weirdos like me, understand and deal with, and then try to translate what worked with them into normal people, allowed me to develop in life in such a way that is kind of hard to put into words. Although I just put them into a lot of words.
You put them in a whole lot of words there.
Very well, I might add.
No, not too shabs there. So our last little bit of gathering the townsfolk I wanted to bring up here, I wanted to talk about an auction. I have an auction here for the casual $200,000. Now, there are 2 cards that are officially the rarest Magic cards on the planet, of which there are only one of each that exist. This is one of them, the 1996 World Champion card that was encased inside a trophy, and they made a big deal out of like it was burning or like shredding every other copy on the sheet, like it's literally just gone. However, the other one is the Chinese dragon, whose name I am literally not even going to try to say, that they made as a promotion. Something Fikanuku, something or other. I don't know. The point is, the
Fukushima dragon.
Yeah, the Fukushima. I'm not. The point is, because I'm not trying to offend anybody. The point is, these are the 2, and one of them is in like the offices of somewhere in China, and that thing's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
But this one just showed up. I don't know, but somebody wanted 6 figures, and so what you'll see here is that. The listing was ended by the seller because the item is no longer available. That is basically speak for somebody contacted me privately and they're going to wire me $200,000 and I'm not going to pay eBay and PayPal $1 million in fees.
Correct.
That's more than likely the scenario here. However, literally just a couple hours ago?
Yeah,
Today. I'm going to bring it up on screen. I can't believe it because I was having a conversation with a Magic art collector, and they were talking about how, I said, hey, look, there's this one-of-a-kind trophy shot or whatever, or a world champion card, and they're like, yeah, I would be interested in it if it had the artwork, and I can't pull it up because Facebook's been weird, but the original artwork for the 1996 World Champion card art is here for sale on auction right now on the the MTG Art Market Facebook group.
MTG Art Market. Yeah.
How much is it going for?
And
right now,
there's no listed price.
Right. Apparently, they're working on the auction date. And if you have any questions, you can email them directly. They're going to help Sierra Troy Rush auction off the 1996 World Champion card art. So it's it's her dad's. Original art. So this is big, and first of all, I think it's fantastic for the family. I wish them nothing but success, and I think this is really cool that we have this amazing piece of artwork that I don't even know if people believed it was even still out there somewhere.
Right.
And yet,
I thought that it was in a vault someplace.
In February 2017, it just shows up.
So I'm looking at some of the other pieces for sale here, and like some really obscure cards can go for like a pretty penny, like Oblivion Crown, $800. Like
original Magic art is a huge deal these days, and it has been evolving, especially over the last maybe 3 years. We have a lot of friends in common who collect a bunch of Magic art. I know that Ricky Hayashi is a big collector. Currently has the Stonework Puma, by the way, in case anybody was worried about where that thing is.
Nice.
In addition to some other things, I know that there are some folks who collect Magic art, but this is like on another level. Like this is, it's one thing to collect Oblivion Crown and Stonework Puma. It's quite another to have original Ancestral Recall art. It's quite another to have, Mox Emerald or something so iconic. The first Elspeth
library.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, exactly.
There are
let alone, and I will do it for you because I have to, because it's Ichifukujin Dragon.
Oh my god.
Is the other one of, which was done by Christopher Rush. You're welcome, chat, for the go.
Very nice.
But yeah, these, the fact that the original art has as many copies in the world as the number of cards there are in the world is gotta be like absurd.
This one's probably going to set some records. I mean, I don't. Again, it's just it is very much a sort of Holy Grail-esque type thing for Magic. Like, yes, Black Lotus is amazing, unbelievable, but there's lots of Black Lotuses. There's one world champion from 1996 card. That's it.
And by the way, 1996 world champion, technically legal in Vintage. So if you have the one copy, you can play it.
If you bust it out of the trophy and sleeve it up, you too can play the 1986 world champion.
I think that there was somebody who, as a troll, during a Vintage proxy event, played 4 copies of 1996 world champion in their Vintage deck, which I thought was
bless their heart.
So I'm going to we're going to move on down here to Going Infinite, where we're talking a little bit about sort of thought exercises, some things to think about, some things to talk about. Ruben, tell me a little bit about Magic's esports future. There was an article on TCG Player from Corbin Hostler where he talked to someone who was involved in esports. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, we all know Corbin. He's a MTG reporter extraordinaire for a bunch of the GPs and the Pro Tours, and he is also a writer for TCG Player. And we've talked a lot about Magic as a electronic sport moving forward. Mm-hmm. And he put forward a couple ideas as to where we currently are with Magic becoming an esport, because Magic very clearly wants to be an esport, but they just don't really know how to go about it, I think, is the main problem. So some of the hints that lean you towards Magic wanting to be an esport, the biggest one to me is the team series. I think that obviously when you create teams, when you try to build these brands, trying to bring in advertisers is the main impetus for teams. If you look at, for example, DreamHack happened this past weekend. 5 of the top 7 Twitch channels were all DreamHack related this past weekend for the games that they streamed there, and everyone has jerseys that are sponsored by Monster Energy drink, or the chair company that all the gamers have, headphone companies, various things like that. And Magic has sort of been slow to move up that, but they've picked up on it more recently, and you can especially see it. As Corbin says here, quote, "Nothing illustrates this better than Team Card Hoarder, which has taken the team concept and absolutely ran with it. Not only do they have a Pro Tour team for the team series, they've gone a step further under owner Nathaniel Buckley Wright and made regular Grand Prix trips as a team. But it doesn't stop there. Card Hoarder has management positions filled as well. Jennifer Long, aka Miss Mulligan, does PR for the squad, while Ken Crocker is the team manager. So that is becoming an esports team. That, if you look up esports teams for other games, it's not just a bunch of players who play test together. They have nutritionists. They have regular workouts, practice. So that's something that's leading towards it. And so there's a bunch of points that Corbin goes into in this article to try to illustrate how Magic is moving in that direction. And then he moves, later in the article, he interviews a guy named Matt Dillon, who is a law graduate, to discuss some more ideas on that. And I didn't follow a ton of what he went into, because it's like fairly complicated.
Oh, Ruben, your internet is so
to see exactly. Sorry.
Potato's so hard.
Continue without me.
It sucks because you're making a lot of good points. You're saying all the right things, buddy. But the problem is it's fine. The point is that you're not wrong. Like, the Card Hoarder is doing it right. I think the team series, that whole Pro Tour was so eye-opening. It was like, oh my God, when we finally got over the ridiculous, like, weird ego stuff, and the too cool for school kids over here, and like the weird, like, ragtag over here who are trying to make their team work, and you got these teams who are sponsored by the big names and whatnot. Well, the fact that the teams are all the same size is a big deal. This whole thing where Team Ultra Pro had 427 people on it was ridiculous. And you just can't get behind 427 people, but you can get behind, 6? So, like, that's fantastic. And the fact that you can say StarCraft is an individual sport, quote unquote, but can be played as a team, that's also important. But I think Card Hoarder is really taking it very seriously, which is awesome. Managed by Ken Crocker, former employee of mine, which is sweet. Who I know would take it seriously and try to do the best thing for that team as he could, because there is potential here. But the other thing that he mentions is engagement, that people don't really like watching Magic. That's what sucks. There's really cool personalities. The gameplay is fantastic if you know the game and if you pay enough attention to it. But just on its face, not great. Magic Digital Next supposedly has like animations. I remember hearing something about like a dragon popping out of a card, or like the one of the vehicles like bursting out of the frame or whatever. And that's super cool and all. But if if that works, if that's what it takes, then that's awesome. Then that's what it takes, and that's what we do, and that's where Magic's going.
Well, I think there was one thing he brought up that I really latched onto. He mentioned the fact that the engagement has to go both ways. And this is something we've talked about before, about how the pros haven't quite grasped the concept of necessarily marketing themselves. Okay. One thing that Matt brings up is that I'd like to capture more of the online audience casually from day to day. There aren't enough pro players with consistent streaming schedules or putting in the effort to building up an audience. I feel like most of the time, pros kind of stream in spurts, and they make it seem like this revolutionary, like one night only, you get to see random check player 57. And it's like, that's really cool, but like, you obviously have pull, you obviously have draw. Do this twice a week, every week. We're seeing that with Pantheon. Pantheon is kind of banding together, and you're seeing Sperling stream regularly. Reed Duke, #Baywatch, never streamed before. Was always confined to making these sort of canned videos. And it's like, Wizards can plug you as much as they want to do, but if you're not meeting them halfway and plugging yourself, and also plugging the fact that you're going to be there, it's going to kind of cancel itself out. And so, not only does Wizards have to be bringing you up, but you've got to be bringing them up too, and saying, hey, I'm a name, I'm a brand, I'm playing this awesome game, come watch me play this awesome game. I think there needs to be some more reciprocity there, and I really like that Matt hit on that.
I think that, because sort of we know who we know and we know who knows other people, I don't think it's a coincidence that Tom Martell goes to work for Riot Games and helps them with their awesome streaming stuff. Yeah. And everybody who's buddies with Tom Martell is suddenly doing this Pantheon Magic thing. Pantheon Magic's starting to do it right and starting to do it better than everybody else. It's got all the personalities. They have a website. They have a streaming schedule. They have nice uniforms that look good on everybody. They're branding themselves correctly. Everybody seems to be on board. There's this Magic puzzle quest. They're already getting paid. They're already doing sponsored posts, already doing sponsored streams. Like, they are starting, and they should. I'm not saying any of this is bad.
Absolutely.
I'm absolutely ecstatic for these guys, and I'm happy for them. And I think that, pay attention to what they're doing, because they're really starting to show you how to form this thing correctly. Not everyone's going to have Reed Duke and John Finkel or whatever on a team, but they can show you where to go on the path.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it concise so I don't potato by going on a long monologue. But Magic can be a successful esport. It's possible. They just need to get everything together. They need to get their ducks in a row. It's going to be tougher than a normal video game because it's not electronic and therefore not an electronic sport naturally. But focus needs to be on the players and the teams a little more than it has been. You can still focus on the cards, but you got to focus on the people as well. Like he said, it's tough to get enough viewers when it's not Kenji or Humph streaming. At the same time, the presentation is still not great. Like, when you've got the draft at the Pro Tour set up as just a dude with a handy cam, it's still not working, right? Yeah. So those two things combined, in addition to the fact that Wizards really doesn't stream enough. Like, if you go to the big streaming official channels like Riot or the Battlefield Earth kind of streams, they're streaming 3, 4, 5 nights a week, right? Mm-hmm. And of various types of content, not just tournaments. And Magic hasn't really done that, and Magic should probably do that.
Well, one thing that I'll sort of note here, because I think we have to move on, if Wizards is talking about Magic Digital Next, if Magic Digital Next is Magic with no compromises, if Magic Digital Next makes every card in Standard look, feel, sound amazing, the Magic Digital Next could take over the Pro Tour. The Pro Tour is just a draft. The Pro Tour is just constructed decks. and if it was in a really slick way to look at it, to see it, to hear it, to see these animations, you could do a lot of card-by-card animations if you're just dealing with like 1,000 cards in Standard. You could get programmers to make those cards look good, make them act perfectly, get all the interactions, get some standardization. That's awesome. They don't have to go back to the dark and figure out how to make Preacher work with Gideon or whatever. You don't have to do that.
Right.
But it would bring a really cool, flashy, exciting, digital look, brand new look that I think they could really help sell to advertisers. And it's got the whiz, the G whiz bang shiny stuff that younger folks tend to gravitate to.
And look, you don't have to go whole hog. There's a way to make old school cool. Like, there was an article on both CNN.com and in the LA Times this week about Dungeons and Dragons being the next big thing in esports. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. All you have to do is realign the wheel to be, better. I lost my metaphor.
Well, I will just note that, and this was actually cool from the Hasbro call. They noted that RPG sales are the highest in 45 years.
Yeah, man.
That means since ever. That means
Dungeons and Mother Truckin' Dragons is where it's at.
Thanks, Stranger Things. You did a great job. Which is really great. So one last thing before we go to the finisher. There was a Blogatog post. Now this is again where on Tumblr where Mark Rosewater answers a bajillion questions, or even a Brazilian, if you will. A Brazilian questions. And someone had mentioned, hey, what about Kamigawa? What do you think? Not to beat an old dead horse, which they are literally destroying.
It's glue at this point.
It is glue. They have beaten that thing in. It's gone. You don't even know what it is anymore. But they said,
it's a Burger King cheeseburger now.
Exactly. Do you think people are more willing?
Or a Popeye's cheeseburger. They just bought them.
That's right. So Kamigawa, I love Kamigawa. I have clearly ranted about Kamigawa many times. However, Rosewater gives it to him straight. He says, I can't with a good conscience go to my bosses and say, of every option available to us, I recommend the world that was critically and financially one of the most problematic worlds we've ever done. And
that sentence is so good. I just can't get over how good this the construction is impeccable. Like, the message obviously is not fun for us because we like the world of spirits and everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. But this sentence is just a hammer. Like,
no.
Yeah. It is a hammer. It comes down. Like, there's no debate. Like, there's not even like a comeback here. It's just like, yeah. And I may not like it, but you cannot in any way fault the guy's logic. You just can't.
Ain't wrong.
You're talking about, like, because when we talk about, Magic and coming out with new sets and doing new things and going back to places that we liked, that's cool. We're Magic players, that's fine. But they're talking about shareholders. They're talking about hundreds of employees' lives that are at stake if they make something that completely fails. And if you say there's a dangerous path, and there's a more interesting, or at least a different / safer / unknown path, why would you ever go down the dangerous one?
Yeah. It occurs to me that this is the darkest, perhaps, most film noir sentence that Mark Rosewater has ever written. And so it would be remiss of me to not pull out the Mark Rosewater voice.
Assuming your computer can handle it.
Here we go.
For this decimation of a sentence. I can't. I might just stop there. That was really good. I can't, with good conscience, go to my bosses and say, of every option available to us, I recommend the world that was critically and financially one of the most problematic worlds we've ever done.
Oh my god.
Yeah. All right. So
I can't.
All right, so we're going to turn the corner to the finisher. All right, so today NASA held a press conference announcing that 7 Earth-sized planets have been discovered in a solar system just 40 light years away. The discovery of the TRAPPIST-1 system sets a new record for the greatest number of habitable
There you go.
Habitable, right? Habitable zone planets found around a single star outside our solar system. Of all these 7 planets that could have liquid water, and 3 fall within the Goldilocks zone that can support human life. This is obviously a huge day for those interested in space exploration and that meme guy from the History Channel, aliens. But tell me, what will Magic be like once we enter the interstellar era? Ruben?
Well, Hall of Famer Patrick Chapin will be the first big name to relocate off Earth in order to help him complete his oft-stated main goal, become the world champion of Magic the Gathering, because he never specified which world.
Nice. Nice. Aaron?
Well, once a CoolStuffInc is set up in the Trappist system, going O2 and dropping won't hurt nearly as badly, thanks to the reduced gravity of space travel.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the first and most important change will be the fact that we here at Magic Mics will have to move from a live format to pre-recorded for our new far-off fans, because as you know, in space, no one can hear you stream. Woo, so good it makes you cough. All right, so that ends another episode of Magic Mics. I want to thank you guys for joining us here. I would like to thank my co-host. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Ruben.
I tried my best. We'll see if we can keep it together for the rest of the show.
You did what you could. Let's move on to our final slide. And that does it here for us to discuss all things Magic. I want to thank my co-hosts, you guys, for watching, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Visit our website at magicmicspodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to all the things that are social that tell people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicscast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/magicmics, and on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.